What's up, guys? It's Corey from SuperKamiGuru9000, and this is my review of Bleach Chapter 472, and I just gotta say, before I actually begin the review, this is the best chapter of Bleach I have read, like, probably in the last 50 chapters, and for me, that's saying a lot. This chapter begins with the beginning of the battle between Rukia and Maruka, and it actually gets concluded almost immediately. The chapter actually begins with Rukia standing there, and Maruka has just seemingly disappeared, and we have no idea where she's gone. So I guess that's pretty much been resolved. Hopefully they'll get back to that, because their backstories were pretty interesting, and I still want to know what's been going on with those guys. But anywho, this is the real big part of the chapter. We go back to the huge battle that's going on between Tsukishima and Byakuya, and it is insane right now. It is just one of the coolest battles I've ever seen. If there's one thing that Kubo has done right this week, he's been drawing things on a really, really great scale and from really great angles. And that's what he delivered in this week's chapter. There was just so many great big panels. I know that's what he's known for, but they all looked fantastic this week. He put a lot of work into them. And the battle itself is really, really interesting. The first thing that's interesting to see here is that Byakuya's sword has actually been snapped and broken in half, so you'd think that he's screwed right now, but he always has that look on his face where he's not really worried about anything, and this whole time Tsukishima is just berating him, you know, being the typical smug bastard that he usually is and has been for the last arc. And Byakuya's like, yeah, screw this. He walks over and he picks up his broken sword and he drops it into the ground and activates his Bankai immediately. So Byakuya begins to use his signature technique, the Senbon-Zakura Kageyoshi, which is that crazy technique where he uses all of those, basically those little petals, those flower petals that are little blades, and they're flying around all over the place. And Tsukishima's basically saying, I know how to get around that, that's easy and everything, I just need to go into your zero damage zone spot, that, you know, that place he was talking about a couple chapters ago. And he basically gets right behind Byakuya like always, he's getting ready to slash him. But Byakuya does something really risky. He actually is able to bring in those flower petals into the zero damage zone, so that way Tsukishima can't blindly attack him. And this is really useful. Unfortunately, Tsukishima has another trick up his sleeve. He basically is just able to move so fast around Byakuya that he's able to not tell where to be able to attack him at. He basically quits attacking his blind spot and just sort of attacks him at random. And that makes it really hard for Byakuya to see where he's actually going to be able to attack. And Byakuya eventually is like, screw it, and he eventually tries to grab him, but it doesn't work, and his flower petals end up tearing up his arm completely. You can see it's ripped up all of his clothes, and his arm is just completely bloody. Bloodied and bruised, Byakuya looks finished. It almost looks like Tsukishima is about to finish him off, and he continues to do his typical villain monologuing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like a badass, Byakuya just walks right up to Tsukishima, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Commando, he's like, come on, Tsukishima.
Let's party.
And then, boom! Out of nowhere, he just freaking impales Tsukishima with his bare fists. And do you know how he did this? He actually grabbed some of his flower petals, the razor ones, and used those to punch through his body. This is freaking awesome. I thought this battle was going to end with just a typical sword slash, but this is way cooler. And not only that, but Tsukishima has finally been knocked down a peg or two, and you can see it in his eyes in the last couple panels. He is completely shocked by this, and you know he wasn't expecting this at all. And the chapter ends with Byakuya standing tall and proud, looking like a badass, basically just saying, that was a cool fight. If it's not obvious to any of you yet, I thought this week's chapter kicked frigging ass. It was great. Like I said at the beginning, of all the chapters I've read in the last, like, maybe year to 2 years, this is the one that I've really, really enjoyed, and it really caught me off guard because I just finished reading Naruto, and we just finished our review of that, and I was really, really enjoying that a lot. And I was thinking, God, there's no way that Bleach can be good this week. There's no way it can top what it did. And this was a really cool chapter. It didn't do anything revolutionary or anything that crazy, but it did everything really, really good. Like I was saying earlier, Kubo's way of drawing these really, really big panels can sometimes get a little tiresome, but in this week's chapter, he really did something good with it. He did a lot of really great artwork in every single panel, and you know, I looked through it a few times, and there's a lot of really great epic shots, a lot of things that make Byakuya look really, really powerful, it was a great read this week, and it was cool to finally see Tsukishima get knocked down a peg. I mean, he is just such an ass. He's the second coming of Aizen, and yes, that is Christian in the background. But, yeah. Keep editing, asshole! Anywho, It was a great chapter this week. Check it out. Like, this is great. If this is where it's gonna go from now on, I look forward to it. But there is one thing I want to bring up, and that's the whole thing with Raruka at the beginning. It kind of just blindly got resolved. I mean, maybe they'll go back to it. I mean, they have to go back to it. We just didn't get any answers from it. And, you know, I want to know what happens to these guys. They all got offed in, like, one chapter, you know. It's just, you know, it kind of sucks. But it can only go up from here, and that's a good thing, because now that this whole Tsukishima thing might be done, that means we're going to go to the whole Ginjo battle with Ichigo. And if this is how cool that Kubo is going to make Byakuya, he better make Ichigo look like a frickin' badass, alright? Because he's the main character of the series. He needs to show off a little bit more, and doing a little bit more than just doing Getsuga Tensho all over the place. But anywho, since this chapter was just so action-packed and so cool, and it involved one of the main villains of the series, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 this week. Freaking one of the best chapters of Bleach I have ever read. One of my favorite battles I've ever seen from Tsukishima so far. This is freaking awesome, and it's going to look great in the anime. And remember, guys, if you enjoyed my review and if you enjoyed this video, make sure and give it a thumbs up. Helps our name get around the YouTube anime community. And come on, more people need to realize that Bleach is badass. It's one of the big three, for Christ's sake. Check it out. It's awesome. That concludes my review this time, guys. SuperKamiGuru9000, out. Anything, Christian?
Don't have sex with your sister. Yeah.
Don't say that's bad advice.